There's that sultry voice I know so well. Cheers.
Cheers. This is a long time.
Oh man. Yeah, dude. I was gonna pull up the text thread, the 3-year-long text thread, with many gifts. Man, yeah, I just thought we haven't recorded any of these conversations, and I wish that we had over the years, man. Like, because there's so much stuff that has happened that only you and I know about. Maybe our wives too.
Yes, yeah.
But what I'd like to do is just try to go back. We met through Kevin, right? McIntyre. When Kevin was producing the record for Stephanie, is that right?
Yep.
So I think that was around then. And then after that, I came to your back to your studio and tracked what would become the Coward's Choir EP.
Yes, I remember that very well. That was I think you were on tour or something, and you were going to be back in town for the weekend or just a few days or something like that, and you called, and because I think for Steph's record we had done some. I mean, I remember we had done something kind of out of the ordinary with the studio monitors and some feedback and stuff like that, and we had just kind of had some fun, with it. And you called and said you wanted to do this EP, and you're going to be back for a few days. And to me, like, this guy thinks he's going to knock out like all of these tracks in a couple days, and like it's hard for me. Like, I didn't know you that well. I know that we moved pretty quickly on the other tracks for that other record we were working on. But when you came in, and I just remember, like, this guy moves really fast, and doesn't hold things too tightly, and that was such a push for me as an engineer, and also kind of the producer part of me, that we weren't working in that capacity, but trying to keep up with your vision, right? And to understand what you're trying to do so that the engineering can, number one, just keep up, and number two, help to say what you're trying to say. So for me, that was such a memorable and really striking experience. Pushed me in a lot of good ways, and and it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to make that.
Yeah, man, I had fun too, and there are a couple YouTube videos that I posted from that session, and one of them is tracking the acoustic guitar for "I'd Sing Hallelujah," which is still, my most listened to song on any platform. Yeah, I just remember like how just comfortable it was. I think we had a pretty good rapport right off the bat, which I really paid attention to and appreciated, because that's not always the case, as you know. Fast forward 9 years, 2009, 2018, moved to Jacksonville, and I had written 1 or 2 songs when I had moved there, and then started writing more, and I recorded them, and I sent them to you. And do you remember under what auspices I sent them to you, other than just, do you remember?
I think it was something as simple as it was. Did you know I was a ghost? And
Mm,
it was something like, you know, what do you think? Like, what do you think of this or something? You know, it
mm,
was just
mm.
kind of like, just kind of like here, basically
Yeah.
paraphrasing. But
Right.
and I still remember the path that I paced in the room,
Mm,
uh, listening to that. It was, and now that I'm talking about it, like I'm not sure why that stuff happens,
mm,
but for me, like I so clearly remember that, and remember immediate, like not like, oh, after I listened a few times, like, oh yeah, there's something to this, or kids will love this one, that sort of thing. Like it was early in the track where I just immediately knew, like, Andy's doing something very important here,
mm,
uh, artistically, just as a person. It's important. That was the thing that was in my head, and I wasn't. I mean, obviously the melody and the piano and or guitar and the things in the track helped to carry that along, but it was what your posture, you as an artist, and your just everything that you were bringing to that song that got me.
mm.
So I can't remember exactly. I would have to go back through
Yeah.
the thread and see
Yeah.
what my response was, but I'm sure it was quick and I'm sure it was positive.
My hope was that you would just help me finish it. You know, put it out. In a few months from then. um, this is probably late 2018 at this point, early 2019. I remember you just saying that you actually no, because you didn't tell me this yet. This idea you had. You we
You
because
send
we
me, yeah, you send me the songs kind of trickled in.
Yes,
The
yes.
first one I was like, wow, that's something's happening, and then you sent, I can't remember what the second one was, but I had a similar feeling. And then you sent "It's Hard to Pray Anymore,"
Mm.
and I remember being moved to tears.
Oh my
And
gosh.
like I just because, number one, I relate to it,
Yeah.
and number two, just because it just felt so true. It
Mm,
felt so like you're trusting the listener.
mm,
By singing this, you have to be that vulnerable as an artist is like, I think it's rare, but I don't. Maybe it shouldn't be rare, but it is a special thing to hear something and feel like someone's letting you in, and that was just moving, very
mm,
moving. And at that point, I felt that we hadn't spoken about this yet,
mm,
but I had just felt strongly like I want to preserve
mm,
this feeling that I have. I want other people to feel that. And I want to do anything that I can do to help Andy protect and preserve these songs through whatever it is that he wants to do. Like I want to help protect that. This reaction that I just had, I want everyone to have that. So I wasn't sure what that meant or how it could help, because I mean the songs are already, they were already moving. So like, what can I bring other than just being a fan? And so that's where I was at that point, a fan. So
thank you, man. Again, it just reminds me of those first few times that we met, and it was just we just clicked. And so I'm just grateful that you felt that way about the songs. I had agreed to produce the record for Clarice, and being that I was not a great engineer, I'd asked you to join me. So we turned the Airbnb down here in Jacksonville, Florida, into the studio. And then at the end of the week, you just casually mentioned, oh yeah, I mean, we were drinking like Prosecco or something and like eating fried cornbread, or I don't, something like that. So, something very, very like, let me just whip something up that Matt just, pulled out of a bag, that was delicious. There's a German word for that, actually, Gemütlichkeit, which is like this comfort and community and food and drink. So there was some of that going on, and you could just casually mention Jay Bellerose, Jennifer Condos, and somehow just sort of inferred that, like, yeah, maybe you could work with them at some point. And I'm just thinking, like, how is that possible? And then we had coffee, before you had to fly out of town, and you pitched this idea to me. Do you remember that conversation?
I do very well. Yeah, I think that well, I had worked with Jay and Jen and Dennis on a couple of records previously, and just know their approach to music and really life in general would be an asset, because kind of what I was saying earlier about, like, I don't really know what there's to bring to the table here, because it's your story, and it's a fragile one. It's one that needs to still sound like it's you telling the story, versus this kind of really reinforced production kind of thing, which I felt would detract from that feeling, that initial feeling that I had, and that would interfere with, I think, your song. So I just knew that particularly Jay and Jen would understand, and would understand the music and just what to do. I mean, they're just so, and really everyone that played on the record is just a master of loving music and loving the artist and supporting the person that is trying to communicate a thing, rather than trying to make something that's commercially viable or something for someone else that no one knows. It's really about listening to what this person's saying, and what words can we underline, and what can we make bold, and what just needs to stay as it is. And they're on the front lines in that respect. So I wanted to sort of bring them on board, just to help these songs be a little deeper, a little wider, but not to change the tone or the feeling of that you already had in these songs, not to change it, but just to amplify in all directions.
And in that conversation at the very well-known coffee chain, which doesn't need our advertisement, it doesn't matter one way or the other, but we had coffee there. You told me about this, and then I think that's when you said, I'm going to be in LA this summer. Why don't you come? And I think that might have been March or April. Does that sound about right? March or April of like 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was like ecstatic about this possibility, and knew a lot of the records that they played on, just didn't know it was them. I'm embarrassed to admit that, but I did not know that. When we got to hang out with them in LA, just the one day at Largo, really just at the show, and seeing Jay play with Joe Henry, and just how I mean, that couldn't, I don't know that that really could have gone any better in my mind, like just the way they interacted with me. I mean, as far as first impressions go, I mean, they nailed it. They nailed it. I just remember Jen saying really detailed things about the lyrics, and Jay speaking more about sort of the overall tone of the record. And when they each said these things, they were not speaking over me; they were speaking right to me, and it's no wonder why they are so skilled at what they do, but also why they're sought after, because they are. It's like you said, they just, the way they live their lives and interact with people, they have no pretension. There's no posturing at all. And I didn't expect that. I just was blown away by their kindness. I remember going back to the house, your friend's house we stayed at in the Hollywood Hills, and drawing that thought map. Remember the thought map? I still have that, because at that point it was like, how can we, okay, they're on board, which amazing. It just, wow. How do we make it happen? And the plan was to go, of course, to LA and record it. Wasn't it going to be Lynn's studio, which looked awesome, and to go and just, do it in a couple days, be there for a week maybe, and just track it live, and like you do when you mean it. And we almost we almost did that. But then February of 2020, of course, the world turned upside down with, COVID, and some funds that were talked about just kind of dissipated, just went away. And I remember being on that little porch of the apartment we were in and just looking out, the only light was from the like street lamp in the parking lot. And just both of us were just, I would say, crestfallen is the word. That's the way I felt. And the feeling wasn't, it's over. It was just, okay, how do we move forward? How do we figure it out? And we will. And we did. I don't know that we even expressed it that way, but that was certainly the feeling I got, that we would just figure it out. And then you called me a few days later, and I remember I think I was walking through Home Depot. You said that we were just going to move forward, and we're going to make it happen. So not to, make a long story longer, but they tracked at their house, Jay and Jen. Then when did you reach out to Dennis?
Once we knew that this was going to be done remotely, I reached out to Dennis Crouch, who I'd worked with before, and just I have the utmost respect for him as well. And like, his tone is just so good, right? I say like right out of the box, but like,
yeah.
The years of experience, and it's not an easy thing to get that to happen. But in terms of double bass, he's a master of that. I had thought originally that we were going to be able to get him at Lynn's, but anyway, he said he would love to do it, and just like it was nothing, like, yeah, like I could probably do it on Sunday or something like that. I was like, oh well, I guess I need to I need to get to work here and prep some stuff. So people were just so willing to pivot, and I think a lot of the other players on this record had already done that, because just out of necessity. So everyone was kind of in a good place to press on, and whether it was from home or from a friend's studio or something like that, we all managed to get all the parts recorded, and all in isolation, all without us ever being together. And
Mm,
I remember having this very split feeling about that, like that, on one hand, these songs really deserve sort of the best possible scenario for supporting them. And then at the same time, I felt like what better headspace to be in to track these songs than in isolation.
mm,
That's how you tracked it, and
mhm,
this is sort of like everyone is in a similar place of, and these are all pros at the top of their game, but like there's a little dash of uncertainty in there,
mm,
and also like, oh, we're gonna send Matt the tracks now, like, and we're kind of like, hope it all works out, even though it's going to be beautiful. But like,
mm,
yeah, it's just it wasn't a method I would recommend for making a record, but it seemed like the only way, and that felt like the right way. I can go back to
mm,
being just a fan now, and
mm,
I have listened to that record many times through
mm,
since we've both signed off on it,
mhm,
and that's not something that I really do usually. And honestly, like, not to be, I hope it's not cheesy, but like,
mm,
I'm still moved in the same way,
mm,
and even to often to tears when I hear these
mm,
tracks, and like I can't believe that.
mm,
I can't believe that they still um, just carry that integrity
mm.
through 3 years of trying to make a paper airplane.
Man, I played I think I told you I played it in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and I played the whole the whole record live. Now I played it in a different order just for economy of motion. But when I introduced the song about my dad, "You Won't Need Your Glasses Anymore," I mean, so my dad's it's a year and a half that he died a year and a half ago. I was overcome. I could barely finish my sentences, and so not quite had gathered myself, went into the song, and the royal we, got to the last verse, completely lost it. Like, could barely sing through anything. I mean, I was singing, sort of that, and not in a Leonard Cohen cool way, in like "Well, this is ugly. This is gonna get uglier." And I messed up, the little descending guitar part some, and was like mad at myself in that moment. But also, I thought, what better way to share that song? Because I wept much more making it. And, I feel that way about a lot of the songs in this record, that I did not hold back. Initially, when it was just me in that sanctuary making these songs, before I sent them to you, I thought that's all this is going to be. So I wasn't thinking about anyone else participating in any way as a listener or a collaborator. I just wanted to express what I was thinking about. I have said this a lot to several people, but it's true, man. I'm more proud of this than anything I've ever done. And if I never make another record, I hope that I do. I hope that I do. But if I never do, I think I did something here that I've been trying to move towards the whole time. And it's just a gift to be able to finish it, put it out into the world. But also, it would not have gotten done without you, Dan. It just would not have. It would not have been finished in the same way. I'm not going to get tired of thanking you for it.
Mm.
It just wouldn't be the same. We did it. We did it, man. And at some
Well, again,
point,
I just feel like my role has just been to be a fan, and I was from the beginning, from like I said, not even the whole way through the song, like partway through verse 1, like I'm a fan, and just trying to be that all the way to the end. Well, not trying to be, just I was. The feeling is mutual. I'm very grateful to have been a part of these songs, and I thank you for having the guts to do it, and to do it in this way. You're spending time and you're giving these songs, you're sort of putting them out on this operating table, and you're sort of trusting that they're not going to get screwed up in some way. And that means a lot, that you would allow me to kind of walk with you through this. And so thank you.
well, I just trust you, man. I just do. My hope is that we can do on the next one what we hoped we could do with this one, in person, and do it live. And man, just what more can you ask of life than to do things that you love with people that you love?
Yeah.
But-
Here's
oh,
to that, to
yes,
the future.
for sure. Cheers, man.